Diversity in school systems over the years. Different kinds of diversity within school systems. Racial diversity. Racial diversity is the difference in races in a school system. Socioeconomic diversity. Socioeconomic diversity is the difference in the finance and work history of a student and his or her family. Racial diversity over 50 years ago. In the 1940s, all schools were separated by race. White people had clean and well-serviced schools, and there was one in every area. Those of color had poorly cared for facilities, and the schools were few and far between, often having to travel far to go to school. In Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, they made a state law that was passed stating that it is unconstitutional to separate schools by race. Racial diversity 20 to 30 years ago. From the mid-1960s to 1980, as public schools began to slowly desegregate through federal court orders, school enrollment increased by more than 200,000 students across the regions. 20 to 30 years ago, lots of schools were still separated by race, not due to a specific race not being allowed in a certain school. More often than not, schools in lower income communities were overpopulated by Black and Hispanic students because their families had lower incomes. Racial diversity from now to 10 years ago. Today, and in the last 10 years, schools have become heavily integrated with all different races. Most schools nowadays believe there are several benefits in schools that are racially diverse. From students in integrated schools are less likely to drop out, to attending a diverse school can reduce racial biases in students nowadays, and diverse classrooms prepare students to succeed by working with any and all people that can help them reach their goal. Socioeconomic diversity over 50 years ago. Before schools were desegregated, they were separated by race and often social status. Children from families with higher social statuses often got much better educations. The parents put more money towards the schools so they were better funded. Also, students of color came from parents with lower incomes. Therefore, they were not able to put money towards the school systems like the higher class parents were able to do for their students. Socioeconomic diversity 20 to 30 years ago. In 1980s and the 1990s, in these times, most schools were separated by social class. Parents who could afford to send their children to private schools did so, and these students got better educations. The lower classes sent their children to the closest public school, and often these schools were understaffed and underfunded. Socioeconomic diversity from now to 10 years ago. Currently, the biggest difference in social class is their involvement in the schools. The parents, whom are from the middle class, are much more likely to be involved in PTA and other school functions. Our current president, Donald Trump, is doing what he can to give all children in a public school the same opportunities. His strategy could be summed up as give poor kids the opportunity to attend schools with not so poor kids. Overview of other diversities. Some religious diversities. In public schools, religion can be taught broadly by teachers, but teachers cannot show a preference or tell students what religion is the right religion. Parents who want their children to be taught within a specific religion can send their child to a school that teaches that specific religion, but this causes a lack of religious diversity in the students in these private schools. Gender diversities. Now more than ever, gender diversities are common within school systems. Students are taught about the LGBTQ community and at a much younger age. And students in today's classrooms are much more accepting of those who go by lesbian, gay, trans, or queer. Language diversities. In schools now, there is ESL offered to help students from other countries better learn English and the proper ways to use the language and grammar within the English language.